Hey guys.
Right, okay.
Hi folks. Welcome to Sunday's edition of the I Write Radio podcast. I've got Stuart Lockhead with me. Hi Stuart.
Hello there, it's me.
And I've got Jimmy Hutton with me. Merry Sunday, Jimmy.
Aye, happy Sunday to you, Bathman.
In joke, folks, in joke. We're going to talk about the newly imposed quarantine on Spanish holidaymakers. Have a word about Gerry Hassan's piece in the National. And I think Ruth Davidson might get a mention. We'll see. So, the Spanish quarantine that came as no surprise, I would think, to most people, i.e. everybody that didn't go to Spain on holiday. Jimmy, you've got a bit to say about it.
Well, it's no real surprise, as you say, given the way that their numbers have been heading. I noticed people dived in on the Scottish Government after they'd only relaxed restrictions on Spain on Tuesday, but the numbers on Tuesday were very different from the numbers that they got on Friday. And my main point being the amount of outraged people who are in Spain at the moment or just flying back, and they're disgusted that they're going to have to self-isolate for 14 days. The question's got to be, at what point does your arrogance outweigh common sense? Is 2 weeks in Spain that important to you? You were willing to risk your life. It was clearly stated by Nicola Sturgeon all the way along the line that this could happen.
Especially last week and the week before. I mean, she did emphasise that she couldn't guarantee there wouldn't be a quarantine imposed while you were away on holiday. Meanwhile, Boris and his acolytes are screaming, "Get yourselves away on a plane to Spain."
It's the same attitude about going back to work, but we'll stick on the staycation not being promoted. Other countries, like say, even I think Ireland, are giving out vouchers for Irish citizens to stay at home. Staycations. And you would think that's what they should be doing in this country as well. Here's a £1,000 voucher for every family with 2 kids to stay at home and spend it in the UK. But there's not been a whisper, not a whisper from this UK government about staying at home. They seem to wanted everyone to go to Spain. Why?
Are they not waiting on their meal voucher scheme to see if it actually works?
Aye, you could be right.
But why? Honestly, I sit here and think they actually were encouraging Joe Bloggs and his wife and his bairns to go to Spain. And now that they're trapped over there, they're looking like more than egg on their face.
You wonder if this is the death knell for a good part of the airline and holiday industry. It certainly would appear to be the death knell for this air bridges nonsense that they came up with to get people into certain countries. Folk aren't going to travel now, are they? Anybody that's not booked to travel is not going to travel now because they're operating under the possibility that when they're halfway through their holiday, they could find that they're going to have to self-isolate when they come back.
You know,
I'm thinking slightly out of the box here, Jimmy. I'm thinking I can get a 2-week holiday in Spain in a 5-star hotel for 25 quid.
Yeah,
because I don't care. I don't care if I have to self-isolate when I come back.
Well, that's very true. Aye.
There you go. That's fair enough. I'm starting to smell a cultural class difference that this UK government is very well aware of. And they know that the vast majority of the people in this country just read the headlines, watch BBC News, Sky News or something, and they don't really get the nuances. And this is why a load of them have rushed off to Spain. They were saying on BBC there were 100,000 people had rushed off to Spain within the last couple of weeks. My God, why? They're mugs, absolute mugs.
I get this. I mean, my wife loves her holidays, and she's got a brother in Spain, who she was planning to go for a weekend to visit because she's not seen him for best part of a year. So, I mean, I get that, but you must have, well, no, that's not fair, because the UK government didn't put the health warning on it of, we might end up forcing you into quarantine when you come back. The Scottish government did. And anybody in Scotland that comes back and starts moaning that they're having to go into quarantine for 14 days wasn't paying attention.
I don't know. I'm sticking to the word mugs. I mean, there must be millions of mugs in England that are still apparently ready to vote for Boris Johnson. They still believe half or three-quarters of what they're told by this government. I'm going to strangle somebody.
There's a delicious irony that Grant Shapps is in Spain at the moment and was actually on the call when the decision was made to quarantine Spain again. He was on the Zoom line from Spain. Although I suppose it wouldn't apply to him because he can always just come into the country as Grant Shapps and then revert to his alter ego of Michael Green that he ran a business for a few years.
Yes, buy my tins of Scots Mist, one of those schemes, wasn't it?
Aye, it was one of the something like that.
Do we think that the mentality of the people who have rushed off to Spain for a wee holiday is the kind of mentality that will accept quarantine when they come back?
No, that was self-evident when Dominic Raab was asked how the quarantine was actually going to be policed by Sophie Ridge this morning, and he just gave her a vacant stare. A lot of these people will just absolutely ignore the thing. They'll fill in the wee form that they've got to fill in, come home, and then just blatantly ignore it, because I guarantee you, no matter what they say, they are not checking up on it down there. Their track and trace that has to be right isn't right at the moment. So you're guaranteed they're not checking up on people coming into the country.
Okay, let's move on from what in my water I always felt was an inevitable outcome. Gerry Hassan, Stuart, you had a wee bee in your bonnet about this one. Gerry's got a piece in the National today.
I feel that generally speaking, he becomes, strangely enough, over time, I know you find him very difficult, but over time he seems to have got a more and more sensible. Anyway, today's article, I suggested there was quite a bit of meat in it for us to discuss. That doesn't mean I agree with everything he says, far from it. There's one or 2 points I'd give up just to get us going. Basically, he spoke to 6 voters, soft no voters from 2014, and got them to explain why. They all sounded as though they were relatives and friends of his. Explain why they might just vote for yes next time round. The excuses, here's Isla, age 55. I hadn't voted for years until it came 2014. It was the referendum which made me political. So, well, it's not going to be heard later on. Is that she said it was going to be really tough after independence. Who says it's going to be tough? Says I. I mean, the idea that it's going to be tough staying with the UK seems to me an obvious answer to that question. Generally speaking, though, he goes through these 6 people. It sounds as though 2 of them are actually just making excuses for saying they'll actually vote no the next time. Anybody that asks for that much detail before they make up their mind about a vote is simply swithering and saying, I'm really not going to move.
I came away with the impression that he'd spoken to 6 people that gave him the 6 points that he thinks are important, because they contradicted each other. There was one asking for an emotional approach. There was one asking for, as you say, intimate detail of the economics of it. Another one wanted everybody to admit it was going to be difficult. You know, every single excuse that a no voter has used was in that article. So I'm not quite sure what he thought we were doing during the 2014 referendum if we weren't hearing people saying exactly what this article says.
No, you're very right. I mean, he does towards the end, it's quite a long article, I won't read this all, but he starts with, this political debate is part of a wider democratising of Scotland, of people feeling that they have power and refusing to see politics as something done to them by politicians. No, that's whatever that means, that's clearly, you're right, but what the article was all about. It was as if...
Why does he have to tell us this in 2020?
Aye,
That happened in 2015.
And what I don't like, one particular bit, it says here, the basis for achieving 45% for yes in 2014 isn't the same as what is needed to get 60% plus next time. Who said they need 60%? Gerry Hassan did.
Well, what's changed? He hasn't pointed a single argument out that I didn't hear in 2014.
No, he's just, it was lazy, mate. He might well have spoken to 6 people, but it was lazy because he just regurgitated the same horse shit he was spewing out in 2014. I fully accept that there are people out there who are going to ask the same questions, and I also accept that it would be useful if we've got answers to them. But you forgive me, but I thought we had answers in 2014. You know what I mean? I genuinely did, and so did 45% of the population, or they wouldn't have voted yes.
Oh, exactly. He has a go at apparently some women, Elizabeth and Eileen, the righteous morality of yes and demonising folk. The latter observing that we cannot live in a Scotland where we're all true believers.
That's his own whining.
What about the righteous morality of the bloody unionists every bloody day now?
No, but that woman's position is, didn't he pick on me even though I was wrong?
Aye. Didn't he pick on me even though I'm tempted to vote no again? Because once more, I don't have the courage to vote yes. I mean, as we've said before, Peter Bell's argument that there's a 1,000,001 reasons to vote no if you go looking for them. There's also 1,000,001 reasons to vote yes. So distill it down to whether or not Scotland should remain in the Union. I think there's some merit to that. As I say, I think it's useful for us to have arguments against things. I mean, folk will chuck the currency at you. They'll chuck the deficit at you. The unfortunate thing with a lot of people is they believe that they're right, but will not listen to evidence that they're not. You know what I mean? That's... People say to you, there's a 13 billion deficit. It's because the press have rammed into them for the last few years that there's a 13 billion deficit. When you point out to them that deficit's notional and is based on spurious accounting, they think you're talking nonsense, and they're not willing to listen to the evidence.
That's the burden that us political anoraks have to carry. That fact-based argument just doesn't work for people. It's very difficult to get somebody who is invested in a position to change that position, whether it's with facts or emotions. I mean, was it a timely article? Well, it possibly was as a reminder, because really all it said to me was, this is going to be difficult because we're going to have to revisit the arguments that were put forward in 2014. We will have one strong argument that is basically, well, why do you believe the unionists? Here's proof that they lied to us.
Well, you've got more than that.
No.
Look at the state of the union. Yeah, they've got to defend it now.
Well, I mean, that's my point, Stuart. That's going to be the strongest position, is to turn around and say, why do you believe them? Because pensions, because the EU, what else? Tax.
Aye. Well, Maury, everything that people said in 2014 and in the 2016 Brexit campaign, everything that our side said has come to pass. They have treated Scotland with remarkable disdain since the no vote. I would say contempt. And that's shown even with Boris coming up and waving his tin of chlorinated chicken soup and telling us to get back in our books last week.
That's good. Do you know, right, the very first opening paragraph of this article, it makes one big mistake to start with. He quotes all under one banner, which is an interesting thing on its own, which I'd like to mention in a minute. But what he does say is that he talks about the question, what do you think is the main obstacle to overcome in order to restore Scottish independence? the one question he didn't answer, which is the other big one in the way, is because before people can get answers to their doubts, they need to be exposed to the messages. And the messages, of course, are controlled by the London media. And that he never touches that, never mentions it.
No, I mean, there is not one answer to this, because each individual is just that, an individual. As a supporter of independence, you have to be able to tailor your arguments or answers to what is of interest to those people. Nothing's changed that way. In one room, you'll get a dozen different people with different things that are important to them.
Yeah.
And you need the full bag of tricks. You need all the information to be able to deliver a reason for them as an individual to vote for independence.
I would put the flag up for Business for Scotland as a good place to start.
I would agree with you 100% there, Stuart. I don't think during the campaign 2014 and ever since, I don't think they've put out any content that I haven't been impressed with, both with the tone of the content and with the amount of detail, the amount of work that goes into their stuff. I think they should be thanked, and I think their stuff should be put front and centre any campaign. Norrie, see, when you mentioned timely article, the one thing I'd say about this weekend that I found noticeable is a lack of articles this weekend about our indie list split friends.
Oh, no more list news. Latest.
Aye, it seems that everybody has, well, the mainstream media, which all carried everything last weekend about the split parties, has already got bored of them, which is interesting given that one of them actually officially launched, I think, on Thursday. But they didn't make a splash. In fact, they didn't make a ripple on a wee scary puddle in the street.
The same people who were probably now talking about Angus Robertson and Joanna Cherry.
Well, Angus has thrown his hat in the ring officially, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's launched himself officially today, and at the moment is answering very few awkward questions, shall we say, on his Twitter account.
I think you want to ask about his wife and her role in the salmon affair.
Before we get there, Stuart, remember that you're still not allowed to mention anybody that was involved.
Mm-hmm. Not even news that was in the public domain.
No, not even news that's in the public domain, because the public domain apparently is different depending on who you are delivering that news.
It's certainly different depending on which hat you wear in the Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service.
Well, look, slightly away from that. One thing I noticed was thinking about AUOB. You know, there was an organisation that was set up to run marches. They're now become a lobbying group, a pro-independence lobbying group. Looks as though they've got money. They can't do marches, so it looks as though they're becoming part of the pro-independence establishment. It occurred to me that the pro-independence establishment and the bloggers that have survived and the internet outlets that have survived, they're definitely matured. There's a definite list. There's definitely a list now, which if you tick them all, you'll cover most points of view.
Yeah, maybe, mate, but I wouldn't say any of them have matured. I think the bloggers are just having a wee rest after having a cat fight for about 3 weeks, not so long ago. AUOB no longer exists. AUOB is effectively now 3 different organisations that all want to have marches roughly about the same place in the same time to try and make money.
I was not really trying to. All I was trying, I was simply trying to say, not in the last 3 weeks. I mean, since 2014, when there was so many different organisations sprung up, and it was hard to tell which one had really useful information and which was wasting your time and all the rest of it. Whereas now, the organisations that have survived since 2014, you can tick them off and you know what they've done, so you know why you should bother going there and reading what they've got to say.
You could be right. I struggle with them.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure I agree, Stuart. I mean, I'm finding some of it a bit samey, to be honest with you. It doesn't... Whereas once they kind of presented new ideas and lit your imagination, I'm finding it all a bit of a struggle at the moment. to be honest. I'm not finding much new. As for AUOB being a lobby group, I don't think so.
No, I think they want to. There's certainly somebody in there that is a bit more professional doing their digital media content. Somebody's taking a grip on that. But at the end of the day, they're still the BAMs that want to go to the council and argue that they shouldn't have to have a license for this. They should be able to do this, whatever they want, because they've got 80,000 people that want to walk down the street. Well, if you need a license for that, Mark, just go and get the license. Didn't dictate to the council that you're going to do what you want.
Didn't they not just get in a stitchy with Pete Wishart about Pete Wishart complaining that they were criticising SNP policy, and I'm sure they said that they had every right to criticise policy they disagreed with. That was this weekend. It might even have been yesterday, which I don't feel is their place. I don't think they should be taking any stance other than organising the marches and being pro-independence.
Yeah, but if that's the problem, mate. They think they are bigger than what they are. They don't want to just be people that organise marches. Hence the reason that there's been such a fallout. I mean, the Mani Singh fallout was about money. But the fact that Yes 2 have set up and are starting to do marches as well is purely because, well, let's say Neil Mackay and his sidekick wanted to be spokespersons for AUOB and the people that go on the marches. And frankly, they're not spokespeople for people that go on the marches.
I have a problem with that. Their job is to organise and steward marches.
Well,
if they start taking a particular stance, it's going to cut the number of people that go on the marches.
Yeah, but they chose who the speakers would be at each of the marches.
And I don't have any objection to that.
Yeah, but that was effectively an editorial choice, which when they did
it, you didn't have to listen to them.
Yeah, but when they did it once at the start or twice at the start, it probably didn't appear to matter too much. But by the time they had as many marches as they did last year, there was a clear, that you could see there was a clear editorial line. They had Nicola Sturgeon on at the very last one in Glasgow. I suppose because they really wanted her there, and she didn't know why she went to that one. I suppose she had to. I don't think she wanted.
No, was that AUOB? Was that not just a rally for something else that she spoke at? I didn't think that was an AUOB march, mate. Because I don't think she's been. So people were complaining that she's not been to any of the AUOB marches, and I was looking at the ferrets fighting in the sack analogy and thinking, why would the First Minister of Scotland attach herself?
Exactly, and why would she go on a march whose organisers take a political stance that is critical of SNP policy?
Very good. I'm trying to remember just which I've been done so many marches last year. It became my hobby, I must admit. No, it was George Square, and she was there. I was there.
It was a very good speech she made. I can't remember what it was either, mate.
It took her about half an hour to get off the stage because she was speaking to us. I mean, she's brilliant with people. She came off the stage. It was a wee stage. That was wrong. The sound system was rubbish. So, you're right. I don't think it was AUOB because the size of the stage and the sound system was rubbish. You couldn't hear what the speakers were saying at the back of the square.
She is very good with people, though, as opposed to the one, as we're about to segue into, the woman who thought she could set herself up as Nicola Sturgeon's nemesis, the bold Captain Ruth.
I have it on good authority that Ruth Davidson has not only got a brand new pair of Steelies, she's also got a couple of big burly guys protecting her when she hands out the kickings that she thought the unionists should have handed out. I suppose we should give a bit of an explanation. Those of you that don't read the Times, Ruth Davidson has written a piece in the Times today basically saying that the unionists made a mistake after they won the referendum in 2014. They should have gone around giving, and this is a quote, should have gone around handing out kickings to independent supporters when they had the upper hand. The reason they didn't was because they wanted to be better people than we are. we being yes supporters.
Yes.
Very
it's a strange
reminiscent of Ian Davidson's Bayonet the Wounded.
one. It's a bit of a weird one, mate, because
comment.
as you say, that's the times, and she's talking about putting the boot in. And at the same time, there's a piece that she also wrote. Must be nice making herself a few quid off the Fleet Street Press, but for the Mail on Sunday, in which she's having a go at Nicola Sturgeon for not working closely enough with London. So we've to accept that they should have put the boot in, and then we've just to take that and work closer with London, because, you know, we should know our place in Scotland.
Oh yes, no, we know our place.
What she means by working closer is doing what London tell us to.
Yeah.
What she means by agreeing with London is doing what they want to do. She's not looking for the Scottish government to sit down and have a discussion and then come to some compromise between the two of them. She's looking for Nicola Sturgeon to do what Boris Johnson tells her.
Can I ask, did we discover if Nicola Sturgeon's spokesperson managed to come out with a tweet before the official quarantine limitation announcement last night by the Department of whatever?
I believe Nicola did, because Torquil Crichton just about had a bairn. He couldn't get to Twitter quick enough to talk about it.
And what Torquil Crichton missed was what she actually tweeted was the Scottish government will be supporting the UK government decision to quarantine people coming back from Spain. She didn't say the Scottish government is going to quarantine people coming back from Spain. She said they would support the UK government. So I don't know what Torquil Crichton was upset about.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you had the same sort of thing for Murdo as well. And where did you get this information? And I think Hamza Yousaf came back. The Joint Biodiversity Centre, the exact same place that the UK government gets their information from. So I don't know, mate. The whole Ruth thing, as I say, if anybody out there is on Twitter, Willie Miller's Moustache comes close to tweet of the day for me anyway. He's talking about Ruth Davidson and her put the boot in jibe, and the way he puts it is beautiful. There's a joke about unionists failing to put the boot in because not enough folk voted for her, but I'm too polite to tell it. That works for me.
I just go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say the whole thing with Ruth. She bugs said living daylight to me, mate. She's not just two-faced. She's like that then Cloakstone and Great Junction Street and Lee. She's got four faces. She backed every single opponent that stood against Boris Johnson for the leadership of the Conservative Party. Every single one, she backed them. Then she backed David Mundell to keep his job as the Secretary of State for Scotland. And when David Mundell got binned, what did Ruth do? She resigned and ran away because she knew that she was next on the list to be binned. Her career as Scottish Labour leader was going to be consigned to the bin by Boris Johnson.
Freudian mistake. Scottish Tory leader, mate.
Aye, sorry. Freudian mistake indeed. Aye, she was going to be binned by Johnson because he takes everything personally, and there was no way he would work with her.
Look, Tories in Scotland and in the UK as a whole, but in particular in Scotland, they say outrageous things all the time because they know that they won't be caught out by the mainstream media as liars, because the fact that they've been proven liars time after time is ignored.
Yeah, it's just accepted now that you can tell that you can lie as much as you want if you're a Tory. It's
actually a very serious situation that the United Kingdom has got to the stage where senior politicians can lie to their, including the Prime Minister, can lie to their heart's content. That people can take bribes, they can hand out contracts to all their buddies. I mean, this is just what we used to call a banana republic, except it's a monarchy.
By the way, guys, you didn't question when I said I knew that the Spanish quarantine was coming back. I can tell you how I knew.
All right.
Because Jackson Carlaw said it wouldn't happen.
It wouldn't happen. Have you and your bookie got a wee relationship where everything that Jackson Carlaw says, you put a fiver saying on the opposite?
Aye,
Is that what's going on here?
Basically, because I mean, I might be wrong on one or two occasions, but I've got to be right 80% of the time. I mean, I noticed, I'm not sure it was Jackson Carlaw, but somebody was saying that the Tories are going to destroy the SNP at the next Holyrood elections, and they will, in fact, have a majority in Holyrood. I would guess it was Jackson.
I'll tell you what, mate, frighteningly, George Galloway and his supporters actually think they're going to manage that. A pro-union majority in the election. Gorgeous George firmly believes that unionists will vote for him, even though he spent his entire career, his entire life actually, being anti-unionist when it comes to Ireland, because he specifically said there's no such thing as Northern Ireland. They're the 6 counties and they belong to the Republic. So I've no idea how any unionist in Scotland could vote for him after he comes out with stuff like that.
Well, he's learned the lesson I've just outlined 2 minutes ago. You can lie to your heart's content. It's up to whether the media
George,
let the people know.
George hasn't lied about Scottish independence. He's just a hypocrite.
Well,
what's the difference?
Well, I mean, he's a hypocrite. He's not a liar. I mean, I wish George would bang his head again and get back to where he was. I used to have a lot of time for George when he was a left-wing firebrand.
He had one good day in the Senate, in the United States Senate, and we all admired what he said in there. But apart from that, he's been a useless.
He spoke well on platforms. I've heard George live a couple of times, and he was quite impressive. I just wish he hadn't fallen down the stairs and banged his head.
Yes, well, he is a very good speaker. That's really not the point. So was Adolf Hitler.
I think it's in the tan, Norrie. I think it's in the fake tan that these fake firebrand Ouija's use. They put so much fake tan on that eventually there's something in that just turns them into utter ball bags.
Is he no
Agent Orange?
Is he no for Dundee?
Yeah, that's for Dundee, aye.
Come on, mate. Where did he make his name? Where did he serve as MP for long enough? And who else copied his looks, his style, and his particularly loud and Glasgow accent?
I think I know who you're trying to insinuate is like him.
The other orange fud for Glasgow, although he's no orange in the term that most Glasgow fuds are orange, I suppose. Once we go there, I'm getting myself into a sticky wicket.
Yeah. Orange faced, you meant?
Aye.
Fake tanned.
That's the man.
Right, guys. Anything else apart from how much we admire Ruth's?
I think that Peter A. Bell picked out a lovely phrase today to describe a kite that was clearly being flown by the SNP headquarters. Apparently, they want to have a debate at the next SNP conference, whenever that is. Does anybody know?
It's quite soon, is it not? September?
Anyway,
September or October. They've not set the date yet.
They're planning to have a debate about getting rid of Trident and a plan to get it out of Scotland in 3 years. It struck me exactly the same way as Peter. I think he came up with the phrase, which is actually stolen from the days of Tony Blair and the Iraq dossier. He talked about weapons of mass distraction. The idea of having a debate about Trident at the upcoming conference is almost certainly the plan is to squeeze out a debate about going for a referendum.
Nonsense. Abject nonsense. Peter knows that. I've no idea why he chucked that out into the ether this morning. But
if they
the debate needs
to
be had about Trident. The debate has to be had about Trident because
we don't need another one. With the existing policy on Trident is perfectly adequate.
What existing policy?
Oh, I do need to refresh it. If I'm happy with it, if I was unhappy with it, I'd tell you.
What's the time scale for getting rid of Trident and the present policy?
Exactly. There's not a time scale. There's a request to the British government to remove their nuclear weapons from the Clyde.
The whole question of Faslane and Trident depends on the power relationship that is achieved between Scotland and United Kingdom. And we don't know how that's going to work out yet. But at the moment that Scotland is officially independent, then the power relationship becomes completely different. And it's kind of like, well, how do we discuss how it's going to work now?
My memory of it is that the time scale is something worded something like, as soon as it can be safely achieved.
As soon as it's practicable or something like that.
All right, well, we could sit here and debate it here. Having it there after Scotland's independent, as far as I can see, it's a great threat to the health of people in Scotland, but it's also a great, it's almost like somebody you've kidnapped. We've got this base that you really want and love and desire, but you can't use it because we're going to stop you using it unless you pay us loads and loads of money or move the submarines within 6 months.
Won't happen.
Well, I'm just giving you one example.
Yeah, but they can't do that. They can't threaten that way. That's not a real political option.
What?
No,
No, they can't use the nuclear base as a threat in any way, shape, or form. They can't turn around and say, "Give us £20 million a week, or we won't let you use it."
They can stop those lorries carrying the nuclear bombs on the back streets of Scotland every 6 weeks.
Right. Okay. How are they going to move them?
They're not going to move them. They'll have to.
Oh, right. So we're going to have nuclear weapons on Scottish soil that aren't being maintained.
Well, I don't think this is. You are going being picky, and you're just wanting a row now.
No, I'm not. I've just told you why politically it is not feasible to blackmail.
I'm going to give you a suggestion where you can go and look for an example. Look for what happened when the Soviet Union was collapsed and what they did with the nuclear weapons there. In the different satellite states when they became independent. There'll be methods.
Right, well, there'll be methods. What? I'm sorry, they will never use it as a blackmail tool.
Oh, so that just means it's a liability sitting there.
Essentially,
no, it sits there until such time as they can base it in Devon, because Devon's the only place they can bloody put it. They've already got feasibility studies going on.
Did you see the article from the Cornish News or something last week? And they were apparently there is some scoping exercise going on in Cornwall to look at different places like Falmouth, and they've got quite a lot of natural harbours in Cornwall. And also they've got Milford Haven. So the South Wales.
It certainly won't go to Northern Ireland or Wales.
No.
Well, yeah, I don't know about Wales, but maybe.
No, it won't. They won't risk putting it on one of the devolved nations.
Well, why don't they just take it to the Portsmouth headquarters? If it's that safe, just put it in Portsmouth. Portsmouth Navy HQ is going to get first missile anyway.
Stuart, they're refurbing Westminster. Now, there's an ideal opportunity to dig out a few submarine docks beneath Westminster. They can park them there.
Aye, the top of Big Ben just flipping back. So is it Big Ben just one big missile silo? That works.
Do you guys remember when the Greenham Common had all these American missiles, and they used to drive out every morning on the back of articulated lorries and drive around the English countryside?
Well, I've never had a problem with them driving around the English countryside.
Has there ever been an accident with one anywhere? Even the bloody old Soviet Union, their SS-18s, they used to run them all over the old Soviet Union. Mobile missiles, so that they couldn't be targeted by the Yanks, and there's never ever been a single accident with any one of them.
Oh, you don't know yet, Jimmy. You can't make that statement.
Yeah.
Have you met the people from Norfolk?
There's not been an accident with one of them. In all the time that we've had nuclear weapons, there hasn't been an accident with a nuclear weapon. You point to me to anywhere different where there has been.
I'll leave you with that statement.
Chernobyl.
Nuclear power's more dangerous, mate.
It's the only one I can think of.
Well, Chernobyl wasn't a nuclear weapon, Norrie.
No, that's what I'm saying. The only nuclear accident I can think of is Chernobyl.
There's never been an accident with nuclear weapons.
Was there not one in America as well? What was it? 3 Mile Island? Was that
3 Mile Island was a power plant as well.
They've reduced the risk level at Faslane for health and safety issues in the last year because they were having so many accidents. So I'll leave it at that.
It's that kind of thing where you get complacent and you do things, shortcut things. Okay, guys.
Norrie, for a nuclear missile to be primed, for there to be an accident, there's about a 7 or an 8 stage process before it becomes live.
I wasn't
They've
really
never got
talking
past
about.
stage 2 or 3.
I wasn't really talking about with weaponry, Jimmy. It's that kind of dirty water gets spilled and mopped up with an ordinary mop, and you know, guys just forget what they're dealing with because it doesn't glow in the dark. No, you're laughing, Stuart. That's most of these things are that stupid that they're petty wee things.
Aye.
You know. Anybody got a funny to finish with?
Yes, I think it's funny that Richard Leonard is now got his coat's on a very sugly hook because Tony Blair apparently said he's worried about the state of the Labour Party in Scotland.
You don't think he was referring to voters then? No.
Well, I think generally speaking, that most of the high Hughians in Labour in England think it's their voters' fault for the state of Labour in Scotland. But it'll be Richard Leonard that'll he'll take the hit. He'll have to go.
Barry, then we get Jackie Bailey for a year or so until she makes a mess of things. Then we get Monica Lennon. Seriously, they've got a absolute. It's like Generation Game. They've got a conveyor belt of absolute fuds, one after the other, heading towards the Labour leadership.
Is there nobody in Scotland at all who looks like they could do that job?
Nobody that wants to do that job.
No.
There are people that could do it.
Anna Sarwar?
Sarwar's father's not got enough money to buy the entire Labour Party, mate. He bought him a seat. That's all he could afford to buy him.
Oh, well. Okay, guys, I'll call it a day at that. And just to remind Ruth Davison not to walk past any electromagnets with her steel toe cap boots on.
She's perfectly welcome to come and visit Leith, and I'll show her how booting the booting actually works.
She not got that training when she was on Salisbury Plain.
Oh, come on, mate. She's a
tanks.
Mickey Mouse. She's a Mickey Mouse colonel in the Pretendy Territorials. And look at the nick here. Do you think she could pass a BFT? Not a chance.
Okay, guys, we'll call it a day at that. Thank you, Stuart Lockhead. Thank you, Jimmy Hutton. I'm Norrie Stewart. And as ever, thanks for watching and listening, folks. And we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Cheers for now.